All right guys, on this week's Land Beat, we're gonna talk about how this big contraption is going to improve deer habitat. So this is a big DJI ag drone, becoming very popular in the ag world. But there is some crossover usage when it comes to habitat and uneven ground and places that are hard to get machines on, that this is gonna have some usage, and we're gonna start to see it in forestry applications, therefore then habitat deer applications. So keep an open mind and don't hear things that aren't being said, essentially from a standpoint of, we're not saying, hey, go out and go get a drone if you want to shoot big deer. That's not at all what's being said, but we are keeping an open mind and embracing new tools and technology to accomplish things. And sure, if you're going to go out and purchase this, yes, that's a large purchase, but there's becoming a lot of drone operators out there. And if you were to go and hire it out on a per acre basis in hard to reach areas and such, it's not unreasonable to consider this as a tool that could come and visit your farm at some point someday. So here's a video to showcase the different usages across this property that it's being utilized to accomplish and improve habitat. And yes, in food plot applications, it's utilizing less herbicide as well as cutting down the time that it takes to spray the food plots on this given farm. So enjoy the video, embrace the technology, and let's create some awesome habitat. All right guys, so one of the challenges of aerial spraying is it's not the wisest, right, to be arcing herbicide into system and shooting it up into the air. You want to be very pointed and very direct with those spot treatments of herbicide. So that's not a very favorable scenario to be doing. And with the width of this band of woody encroachment, we're only going to be able to effectively treat the outer edges by spraying like that anyways. So there's still going to be follow-up treatment after that into the dormant season where you go back in and hack and squirt, and that on a very steep slope, very high stem count, is still going to prove challenge. So there's a multi-step process, and so to alleviate that multi-step process that's going to take much more time, we're calling in the big guns essentially and bringing a drone in to be able to spray this. And that is a foliar treatment. The drone is basically coming directly over top and very targeted application via the drone and aerial spraying. That is going to basically take care of it, one treatment, and then from there we're going to follow up with a short fire return interval every 2 years and make sure that this is staying in an herbaceous plant community as opposed to reverting to woody. So we know there's challenges with the steepness, so we're going to take the right steps, bring in the drone, and then follow up with fire on a quicker return interval. So we don't have this problem down the road, and we want to make sure we terminate it once and for all. So we're bringing the herbicide and a drone to do that. Now, that sounds really expensive to do it, but it's not. If you've got drone operators and they're starting to become very popular around, and it may not be out of the question for you and your budget when you start to think about the time that you're going to have applying in a multi-phase scenario, it really may make sense. And for us here in this site, in this application, it makes perfect sense. And so that's going to be the recommendation for this site. All right, guys, here's another site where we're going to actually use that drone and the technology to help accomplish habitat work. Last year, there were pines that were seeded in here and all in rows. The purpose of that was to break out the outlines. We've got a road right here, an internal road, and a very exposed ridge line. And so this is a long-term process, but we're trying to create a thin pine screen along or adjacent to this road that's going to help move hunters from one side of the farm to the other and moving internally, because with these big open ridge tops, and especially in the fall, we can see from one field to the next, one old field to a bedding area to another food plot. And by having an evergreen screen, this is going to help break out the farm and make it feel a little bit more condensed instead of these big long-term views. So the pines are established, and now it's time to release them. So we're going to use that drone during this growing season to basically apply an herbicide that's going to kill and terminate everything but the pine within this screen. And it's gonna be a great tool. You know, if not, we would have to be utilizing a UTV or a tractor. And obviously we've got pines like this one right here that would be difficult to see if you were the operator of that vehicle, ATV, UTV, tractor, and we'd probably do some harm on these young pines. But with a drone, we're above them and flying over top, applying the herbicide, and not harming any of the pines that have reseeded or that have been seeded and established within the stand, furthering the efficiency of the actual pine stand and getting us where we want to. So another great example of how you can use technology and embrace that to accomplish your habitat work. All right, guys, we've talked about a couple other applications that are very particular in which a drone comes in very handy with uneven terrain, spot treatment, everything. And another one is obviously a food plot. This field, this food plot was sprayed out obviously very effectively utilizing the drone that you see at the first part of the video. So it's a very useful tool to be able to spray. It cuts down on the time. However, still use your tractor, still use a UTV. Not sitting here saying that you have to use a drone, but if you are considering it on all the options that you have to be able to utilize it, well, of course, sure, you can do food plots. Very applicable, very effective at still terminating that crop and allowing you to drill right through it.